What's up, everybody? It's Pikel back with another top plus or minus 10. We've got junglers to look at today. So I'm going to list a couple of junglers from every single region. I don't necessarily think that they all deserve to be in the top 10, but this is a good way to kind of relate the leagues to one another, get some of these players into a video. Disclaimer, yes, I know all these players are better than me, so you don't have to make a comment about it. But with no further ado, I'm going to try to keep this about 10 minutes or less. We're going to get started with some Western junglers, and these are really fringe junglers for what I think deserve to be in a top 10. So let's get started. In the D tier, which doesn't mean they're bad, it just means relative to all these other players, like I put them in the D tier, we have Spica, Blabber, and Yoja. So, we have Spica and Blabber, who are both North American junglers. I think that Spica and Blabber were coming into the scene about the same time. I know that when I talked to Mick Scraggs, who was the pro coach for 100 Thieves. Was it 100 Thieves or Clutch Gaming? I think it was Clutch Gaming. I forget. It was like that organization. But we coached Yale together. And he was talking to me about Spica and Blabber, and he said that when he went to the scouting grounds, he thought that Spica was the better player. And Spica is kind of performing a little bit better than Blabber is right now. I think that Blabber's long-term talent is better than Spica, but they're both very good players. I think that if TSM is successful this year, it's going to have to do a lot with Spica taking that next step because of the new additions to the team from China. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. With Blabber, I think that C9 is going to have a good year. It'll be interesting to see how LS's coaching style impacts Blabber. But if we get more out of Blabber, it'll be nice to see. Then we have Yoja. So Yoja is overhyped in my opinion, but I do think that he's one of the better junglers from Europe. And I'm fine leaving him in this list. I just think that he has limitations. I think that he has limitations that will show out over this next year because his team is not as strong as it was. So it's reasonable to think that we'll see more cracks in his gameplay. And the reason I think this is the case is because when he burst onto the scene in the European Masters, it was because of being able to play that carry style jungle with like things like Graves primarily, right? And like then we went into that meta with Hecarim and Udyr, which are not mechanically intense champions. So I think that Yoja might be a little bit better than what I give him credit for, but he's definitely not as good as the public consensus. Up next, we have another jungler who plays in North America, and that's Contracts. Just kidding. Contracts is not in this video. That's just a I'm sorry meme that I'm going to be using this year because he was crying on the desk. Not trying to shame people for crying, because it's okay to express your emotions. Moving on. In the next tier that we have players in, I have three more junglers that are playing in the West. We have Selfmade, Inspired, and Malron. So the first thing that you might be asking yourself is, Michael, why do you have Selfmade above Yoja? Well, I think that Selfmade is a better player than Yoja. I know that Selfmade had a rough year last year with Vitality. I think a lot of that had to do with the roster that was surrounding them, and I think that now with Alfari, Perks, Karzi, and Labrov, I think that he's going to be much better. He's going to look a lot better. When we last saw Selfmade playing at an extremely high level, he was carrying Fnatic. And I don't think that talent of that level leaves that fast. He had Bwipo. I think that's when they had Niski, Reckless, and Hylissang. Selfmade was the biggest playmaker on that team probably. He had those insane games that he was carrying during 2021. 2020, and I guess maybe a part of 2021. But I know that there's the extremely high highs there. And again, since most of my content is for betting purposes, I think that getting in on Vitality when people are kind of forgetting about how good Selfmade is the right way to go. Then we have Malron coming over from Damwon Kia. Since he is a transport or an import coming over to the LEC from LCK, I know it's kind of a cop-out to say that he's automatically going to be the best jungler in the LEC, but I do think that he will be. And even if he's not, this ranking isn't going to look that out of whack with what everybody else is saying, because everyone just believes that Malron's going to be able to step in and do it. The only reason, well, one of the reasons why it might not work out is because of potential language barriers. I don't know how much English Malron speaks. I don't know what kind of issue that's going to cause within Rogue's team, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to be an upgrade over Inspired. And I would honestly bet money that Inspired has a better year than Malron does. And that's for two reasons. One, I think that EG and Inspired they're going to look amazing, I think, this year. And we might get to the World Championship and EG is firing on all cylinders. Maybe Rogue gets there and they play one another. I think it's possible at that point in the year that maybe Malron is underrated compared to Inspired and is actually the better player. But going into the split, I want to be high on Inspired, high on EG, high on Vitality and Selfmade, and then probably a little bit lower on Malron and Rogue to start the season. And again, these players aren't necessarily going to end up in these tiers even by the end of this video. So let's just keep moving. Next up, we have the A tier. So here are 5 more junglers. So we have Kanavi, Karsa, Beijong, Peosic, and Peanut. So I think that if you took any of these players and put them onto a Western team, they would be the best jungler in the West, period. I think that Peanut is a very unique jungler. He has the ability to completely suffocate the enemy team. And he doesn't have the extremely high kill totals in a lot of the games that he completely dominates, but it's because of his playstyle, not because of a limitation of ability. Next up, we have Peosic. I think that Peosic in 2020 really showed on that DRX roster with Chovy and Deft that he was an elite player, and then once all of the talent around him kind of vanished, he started looking like he was a human again. But I think now with a couple of good players back around Peosic, we're going to have another insane performance. I think this is going to be a breakout season for Peosic where they have an entire year of sustained success, and people should be paying attention and looking out for him to be an incredibly consistent player with the new roster on DRX. Then we have Beijong. Beijong is a fun jungler to watch. He really cemented World Elite's position as like a mid-tier team. And I genuinely think that World Elite's roster, when they had like Jiaomeng / Elk and Breathe, I think they had a chance of being extremely good if they didn't have like a lot of troubles in the mid lane. But at their peak with those 3 players, I think they could have been competing for LPL titles, and a big reason is because of Beijong. And I know that this might not be a popular opinion, but that's fine. That's why it's my opinion, and me not trying to regurgitate what everybody else thinks. Then we have Karsa. Karsa has been one of the best junglers for the past probably 5 or 6 years or so. Just constantly at World Championships, getting results. And I think it's pretty clear that they're one of the best junglers in the world. Can play a bunch of different styles. Wasn't great at the carry style with like a lot of Graves being played, but I think that we'll have another strong season from Karsa. Then we have Kanavi. Kanavi on JDG, they were a huge disappointment last year. We have a lot of roster shakeup, and I think from talent alone, Kanavi deserves to be at the top, near the top of this list. But JDG is going to have another questionable year, but I'm not willing to give up on Kanavi just yet. I think that his skill is too high, and it'd be nice if he went to a different team probably this year or next year, so that we can see him competing at Worlds again, because I'm not sure JDG will be able to get to Worlds with their roster the way that it is. Then we have the 2 best junglers in the world, Tarzan and Canyon. I think that Tarzan's performance at Worlds kind of solidified everyone's opinion of him being one of the best junglers in the world. When he came out of, not retirement, but when he came out of his hiatus, he instantly picked up where he left off when he was the jungler of Griffin. Not really that surprising to people who are familiar with League of Legends, but because of the betting community not knowing too much about League of Legends in general, it was a little bit surprising, I think, like his meteoric rise. At least that's what it looked like, when in reality it wasn't. And then the best jungler in the world right now is probably Canyon. It's either Canyon, Tarzan, or Kanavi, in my opinion, but it's probably Canyon. I was really slow to get onto the Canyon bandwagon because I just assumed that most of the credit should be given to Showmaker. But as as time went on, there were a lot of like insane performances from Canyon being the actual carry of the team, and having a gigantic influence in the early game. So I think that in general, these tiers are accurate. Maybe I should be moving these players around a little bit. It's not necessarily in order. Like, I think you could jumble up A, but for the most part, this is kind of how I see it. This is 13 players, I think, or 12 players, but these are some of the best. I think that there are players who are not on this list who should be higher than Yoja, Blabber, and Spica, and Selfmade probably, and probably Malron as well. But this is a good list of players that help viewers understand where these junglers might line up across regions. So that's all I've got for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comment section who you disagree with. But this is what I got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.